sat in the back row of the classroom, same as always. He had a small desk near the window where the light from distant stars came through. Around him, students from 12 different planets talked and laughed. Nobody talked to him. Nobody ever did. The Galactic Unity Academy was the best school in the known universe. Students came from everywhere to learn how to explore new worlds, talk to new species, and survive in dangerous places. Only the strongest got accepted. Was human, and humans were still new to space travel. Most aliens thought of them as children who had just learned to walk. A named sat in the front row. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with thick armor-like skin that covered his whole body. When he spoke, everyone listened. When he laughed, everyone laughed with him. He was the class leader, the one everyone respected. He had never spoken to, not once in 2 years. The students sat together in a group. They had 4 arms each and moved with a grace that made them look like dancers. They kept to themselves mostly, their large dark eyes always watching. They could read minds, which made other students nervous around them. And then there was average height, average build, average grades. His test scores sat exactly in the middle of the class. He never raised his hand. He never joined study groups. He ate alone in the cafeteria, usually reading something on his data pad. His only friend was another human. She was brilliant with machines and could fix anything with enough time and parts, but she was also ignored by the alien students. 2 humans at the bottom of the social ladder, invisible and forgotten. Today, Professor stood at the front of the class. He was an old with skin and tired eyes. He had taught survival courses for 40 years and nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. The final survival exam will begin in 3 days, he announced. The room went quiet. You will be dropped on a randomly selected planet. You must reach the extraction beacon within 72 hours. This exam cannot be repeated. Fail, and you do not graduate. Students shifted nervously in their seats. The final exam was legendary. Some years every student passed. Other years half of them failed. It all depended on which planet the computer selected. Raised his armored hand. Professor, what classification of planet will we face? Random selection, Professor repeated. It could be anything from Class A to Class X. A student gasped. Class X meant a planet so dangerous that even looking at them wrong could kill you. Most species avoided them entirely. Only military teams with heavy equipment ever set foot on such places. The computer screen behind Professor flickered. Numbers and letters scrolled across it. The randomizer was running, selecting from thousands of possible planets in the database. Everyone held their breath. The screen stopped. 2 words appeared in bright red letters, KOLVTH7. For a moment nobody moved, then chaos erupted. That's a shouted. Class X, we can't survive Class X, a cried out. Stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow over half the room. Professor, this must be a mistake. Request a new selection. This is not a survival exam. This is execution. Professor's face was pale, but his voice stayed steady. The selection is final. Academy rules are clear. The exam proceeds as randomized. Then change the rules, demanded. I cannot. The room exploded with angry voices. Students shouted at each other, at the professor, at the walls. Some were already calculating their odds of survival. The numbers were not good. In the back row said nothing. He simply watched the chaos with calm eyes. When looked at him, she expected to see fear. Instead, she saw something strange. Was that interest? She whispered, "Are you okay? You know what 7 is, right? Toxic air, heavy gravity, predators that hunt in packs. Nobody survives that place without military gear." Nodded slowly, "I know." "And you're not scared?" He thought about the question for a moment, really thought about it, then he shook his head. "Not really." Stared at him like he had grown a second head. How are you not terrified right now?" Did not answer. He just started making a list on his data pad, things he would need, things he would build, ways to filter the air, methods to find clean water, routes through dangerous terrain. His fingers moved fast, faster than had ever seen him move in any class exercise. Around them, alien students panicked and argued, was still shouting at the professor. A student was crying quietly. I had fainted and was being carried to the medical bay. But just kept writing, calm, focused, alive in a way he had not seemed alive in 2 years of classes. Watched him and felt something shift in her understanding. She had known for 2 years. She thought she understood him. Quiet, boring, unremarkable, just another human trying to survive in a galaxy that did not care about them. But now, watching him prepare for like other students prepared for a weekend trip, she realized she did not know him at all. She said slowly, "What exactly are you?" He looked up from his data pad. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something old, something dangerous, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. "I'm human," he said simply. Then he went back to his list. 3 days until the exam. 3 days until 7. 3 days until the galaxy would learn what that word really meant. The survival pods fell through the orange sky like metal raindrops. 43 students, 43 pods, scattered across 200 kilometers of hostile terrain. The planet welcomed them with thunder and poison. Spod hit the ground hard. The impact threw him against his harness, but he was already moving before the dust settled. He kicked open the hatch and stepped out onto 7. The air was thick and wrong. His breathing filter hummed against his face, cleaning each breath before it reached his lungs. The gravity pressed down on him like an invisible hand, making every step heavier than normal. The sky above was the color of rust, and 2 suns burned through the clouds like angry eyes. He looked around. Rocky terrain stretched in every direction. Strange plants with black leaves grew in clusters between the stones. In the distance, something howled, something big. Checked his equipment. Standard survival kit, filter mask, water purifier, emergency beacon, basic tools, 3 days of food packs. Not enough. Never enough for a place like this. He knelt down and examined the black plants, touched the leaves carefully, smelled them, tasted the edge of one with the tip of his tongue and spat it out immediately. Toxic but not deadly. Good to know. Within an hour, he had modified his breathing filter using fibers from the plants. The new design worked better, lasted longer. He found a stream of brownish water and tested it. His purifier could handle it, but barely. He noted the location and moved on. 6 hours after landing, his communicator crackled with emergency signals. 12 students had already activated their rescue beacons. Out of the exam, probably injured, maybe dying. The number would only grow. He found by accident. She was crouched behind a rock formation, her breathing filter making strange sounds. When she saw him, relief flooded her face. "Thank the stars, my filter is failing. The air here is eating through the seals." He took her filter without asking and examined it. Standard Academy issue, designed for Class C planets at worst. Useless here. He reached into his pack and pulled out the plant fibers he had collected. "Hold still," he said. In 10 minutes her filter was rebuilt, better than before. She breathed deeply and her eyes went wide. "How did you know to do that?" "The plants use the same chemicals to protect themselves. I just borrowed their method." Stared at him. In 2 years at the academy, had never shown any special skill, never stood out, never impressed anyone. Now he was casually solving problems that should have killed her. "Where did you learn this?" she asked. Started walking north toward the distant beacon. "Earth." "Earth? What does Earth have to do with?" She stopped mid-sentence. Her brain finally made the connection. "Wait, Earth is classified as..." "Class X," said without looking back, "just like this one." Ran to catch up with him. "But that can't be right, you live there. Billions of humans live there. People raise families there. How can it be a? Because we adapted. They walked in silence for a while. The ground trembled occasionally. Geysers of toxic steam burst from cracks in the earth. Flying creatures with too many wings circled overhead, watching them with hungry interest. Moved through it all like he was taking a morning walk. He avoided dangers before even noticed them. He found safe paths through impossible terrain. He read the land like a book written in a language only he understood. The other students said finally, they're struggling, aren't they? They are strong, but their armor is corroding in this atmosphere. They can't handle the gravity with 4 arms. They depend on their telepathy, but the electromagnetic storms here are scrambling their minds. And humans smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was the first real smile had ever seen on his face. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, predators that could tear us apart, diseases that wiped out half our population, and we survived all of it, not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we never gave up, because we learned, because we adapted. He stopped and turned to face her. Around them, the alien world burned and growled and waited to kill them. The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we're new to space, he said. They don't understand. We're not weak. We just got here late because we had to conquer our own planet first. A distant scream echoed across the rocks. Another emergency beacon activated. Another student giving up. Turned and kept walking. Come on, he said. We have 200 kilometers to cover, and I want to find the others before the night predators wake up. Followed him into the hellscape. For the first time since landing, she thought they might actually survive this. For the first time ever, she was glad she was human. Stood at the center of his group, his armored skin showing patches of where the acid air had eaten through. Around him, 15 students huddled together, all exhausted, all afraid. They had lost 4 students to the stalker that morning. The creature had come from nowhere, 6 legs moving in perfect silence, its body glowing with false lights that attracted prey. Before anyone could react, it had taken them. 4 emergency beacons, 4 failures, 4 friends gone. Blamed himself. He was the leader. He should have seen it coming. He should have protected them. When he walked into their camp, felt his anger find a target. You, he growled at the humans. Where have you been hiding while we fought for our lives? Looked at the group, counted the missing faces, said nothing. We weren't hiding, replied. We were surviving, same as you. Surviving, laughed, but there was no humor in it. Humans cannot survive here. You're too small, too weak. You don't belong on this world. You don't belong in this exam. Still said nothing. He was looking at the wounds on the broken arms of a student, the blank, shocked eyes of the. Leave, commanded. Humans bring bad luck. We don't want you here. Opened her mouth to argue but touched her arm. He shook his head slightly. Fine, he said. We'll go. They left without another word. Behind them felt a moment of doubt, but his pride was stronger than his doubt, so he pushed the feeling away. And had not walked far when they found others. A small named sat alone on a rock, her large eyes filled with tears. Without her telepathy, she was lost, blind in a way that had nothing to do with sight. I can't hear anything, she whispered. The storms have silenced my mind. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Come with us, said. Looked up at him. Why would you help me? Said humans are unlucky. Is an idiot, said flatly. They found next, a young with 2 broken arms hanging useless at his sides. He could barely walk. Every step was pain. He had been waiting to die. Picked up's pack without being asked. Added it to his own. The weight was enormous in the heavy gravity, but he did not complain. Can you walk? He asked. Slowly. Slowly is fine. We're not leaving you. Their small group moved north, set the pace. It was hard, brutal even, but he never pushed them past their limits. He always knew exactly how much they could give. He taught them as they walked, how to read the weather by watching the clouds, how to smell danger on the wind, how to move quietly through territory that belonged to predators. At night they could not make fire. The wood here released toxic fumes when burned, but found stones that reacted chemically with each other, creating heat without flame. They huddled around the warm rocks and tried to rest. "Tell us about Earth," asked quietly. Her telepathy was still silent, but she was learning to use her other senses, learning to survive without the gift she had always depended on. Was quiet for a moment. He rarely talked about home, but here on this hellish world the words came easier. "Earth has ice at the top and bottom of the planet," he said, "so cold that water becomes solid. Our ancestors survived there with nothing but animal fur and fire." "Impossible," muttered. "We have oceans that cover most of our world. Salt water that burns your eyes and kills you if you drink it. Humans learned to cross those oceans in wooden boats, using nothing but wind and stars for navigation." Shivered. "That sounds terrifying." "We have storms that pick up houses and throw them across the sky, mountains that explode and cover the land in fire, ground that shakes and swallows cities whole, and we build our homes right next to all of it, because we're too stubborn to leave." Smiled sadly, "And we think we're the normal ones." "You are normal," said slowly. "That's what makes it scary. You treat all of this like it's ordinary, like our just Tuesday." Thought about that. On Earth, his grandmother still tended her garden in a region that had earthquakes every month. His father had grown up near an active volcano. His cousin surfed waves that could crush a shuttle. "Maybe that's the human secret," he said finally. "We don't run from danger, we just learn to live with it." The night passed slowly. Predators howled in the distance. The ground rumbled beneath them. The air tasted like metal and death. But the four survivors slept. Not well, not peacefully, but they slept. Because a human was keeping watch, and that was enough. In the morning they would continue the march. 80 kilometers remained, 40 hours left on the clock. Plenty of time, thought, if nothing else goes wrong. Something would definitely go wrong. It always did, but that was fine. Humans were built for things going wrong. The valley stretched before them like a wound in the planet. Smoke rose from cracks in the earth. Geysers of boiling acid erupted without warning. The ground itself seemed to breathe, rising and falling in slow, terrible rhythms. And somewhere in that valley, the matriarch was hunting. Studied the terrain from their position on the ridge. The extraction beacon was on the other side, 20 kilometers of the most dangerous ground on an already dangerous planet. There was no way around it. The valley was their only path forward. "We could wait," suggested. "Let the matriarch move to different territory." "No time," replied. 16 hours left, we go through or we fail." Pointed toward the valley floor. "Look, movement." Saw them's group trapped on a rock formation in the middle of the valley. They were surrounded. The matriarch circled them slowly, testing their defenses, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The creature was massive, bigger than their landing pods. Its body was covered in armor plates that had evolved over millions of years to be nearly indestructible. It had survived on this world by being the absolute best at killing everything else. "They're going to die," whispered. Grab's arm. "We should go around, find another path. Add 12 more hours, survive, let them handle their own problems. Threw us out. He called us bad luck. Why should we risk our lives for him?" It was logical, it was smart, it was the safe choice. Watched the trapped students, counted them. 11 left from the original 15. Some were injured badly. Without help, at least 4 of them would not survive the next few hours. "Because we don't leave people behind," he said quietly. Looked at him with her large, dark eyes. "That's a human thing, isn't it? That stubbornness. That refusal to abandon others even when it makes no sense. Maybe started climbing down toward the valley. Are you coming? They followed him. Of course they did. Somehow, without trying, the quiet human had become their leader, not through strength or intimidation through competence, through calm, through simply being the person who always knew what to do next. The plan was insane. Explained it as they moved into position. They would use themselves as bait, drawing the matriarch away from his group. Then they would lead it toward a cluster of geysers that had identified from the ridge. Time the eruption right, and the creature would be caught in boiling acid. And if we time it wrong, asked. Then we die, said simply. But we were probably going to die anyway. At least this way we control how. Built a noise maker from spare parts. Gathered the chemical rocks they had used for heat. Despite his broken arms, insisted on helping carry supplies. When everything was ready, stood up and walked toward the matriarch. Hey, he shouted, his voice echoed across the valley. Over here. The creature turned. Its eyes, dozens of them, focused on the small human standing alone on the scorched earth. It made a sound like tearing metal. Then it charged. Ran. Not away from the monster, toward the geysers, toward the trap. Behind him, the matriarch moved with terrible speed. The ground shook with each step. Could feel its breath on his back, hot and wrong. Activated the noise maker. The sound drew the creature's attention for just a moment, just long enough for it to gain a few meters. Threw the heated rocks in a wide arc, creating confusion, false targets. Reached the geyser cluster. He could feel the ground vibrating beneath his feet, pressure building below. 30 seconds until eruption, maybe less. The matriarch was right behind him now. He could see his reflection in its armored hide. Could count the teeth in its mouth, each one longer than his arm. 20 seconds. He turned to face it. The human and the apex predator of standing in the killing ground. Come on then, said. I've fought worse things in my nightmares. A lie, but it felt true when he said it. 10 seconds. The matriarch lunged. Dove sideways. The geysers erupted. Boiling acid shot into the sky, catching the creature in the center of the blast. The matriarch screamed, a sound that would haunt for the rest of his life. It thrashed wildly, its armored plates cracking, its dozens of eyes burning. It did not die. Nothing could kill this thing easily. But it retreated, wounded and confused, disappearing into the smoke and steam. Lay on the ground, breathing hard. His left arm was burned where the acid had splashed him. His filter mask was cracked. Everything hurt. But he was alive. Reached him first. You're insane, she said, helping him up. Completely, absolutely insane. Probably, he agreed. They found his group still on their rock formation, staring at them with expressions of pure disbelief. The proud leader looked at the small human who had just driven off the deadliest predator on the planet. You saved us, said slowly. After I threw you out, after I called you unlucky, you came back and saved us. Shrugged, it hurt to shrug, everything hurt. We still have 16 hours, he said. We should move. No speeches, no demands for apologies, no moment of triumph, just the next task, the next step, the next problem to solve. Looked at the other students in his group, then back at. Lead the way, he said quietly, human. And for the first time, the word sounded like respect. The extraction beacon glowed blue against the rust-colored sky. 31 students stood around it, waiting for the shuttle to arrive. Some were injured. Some could barely stand, but they were alive. Sat on a rock near the edge of the group, watching the horizon. His burned arm was wrapped in makeshift bandages that had created from filter material. The pain was constant, but he had learned long ago to push pain to the back of his mind. Sat next to him. Her telepathy had started returning as they left the electromagnetic storm zones behind. Fragments of thoughts, whispers of emotion. She was learning to exist without it, but she was glad to have it back. "I can sense them now," she said softly. "The other students, their feelings." "What do you sense?" Was quiet for a moment. "Fear, relief, exhaustion," she paused. "And something else. When they look at you, it's not pity anymore, it's not dismissal." "What is it?" "I don't have a word for it in my language. The closest translation would be," she thought carefully, "respectful terror." Laughed. It was a small sound, but genuine. "That seems like a strange combination." "It is. They respect what you did. They're grateful you saved them. But they're also terrified of what it means that you could do those things, that any human could." Joined them, his broken arms now properly splinted by another student who had medical training. "The others are talking about you," he said. "About all the humans. They're looking at the species records again, realizing things they never paid attention to before." "Like what?" asked, sitting down beside. "Like the fact that Earth is classified as a. Like the fact that humans practice something called extreme sports, where you throw yourselves off cliffs and mountains for entertainment. Like the fact that you keep predators in your homes as pets and call them good boys and fluffy." Smiled. "Dogs are great, you'd love them." Shuddered. "You have domesticated wolves, and you let them sleep in your beds." The shuttle broke through the clouds, descending toward the beacon. Its engines roared against the toxic wind. Rescue had arrived. Students began lining up to board. The injured went first, then the others in no particular order. Nobody pushed. Nobody fought for position. After 72 hours on 7, the old social rules seemed meaningless. Approached as the line moved forward. There was massive compared to the human, his armored frame casting a long shadow. But he did not loom over. He stood beside him as an equal. "I owe you an apology," said. "I was wrong about your species. I was wrong about you." Nodded, accepted. "That's it, just accepted, after how I treated you." "We survived. Grudges are a luxury for people who have energy to waste." Looked up at the massive. "You kept your people alive as long as you could. You fought the stalker when it attacked. You're not a bad leader, just an inexperienced one." Stared at him. Then slowly he lowered his head in a gesture of respect. "I will not forget this. None of us will." The shuttle ride home was quiet. Students slept against each other, species mixing in ways that would have been unthinkable before the exam. A rested her head on a shoulder. A shared his emergency blanket with a human. When they arrived at the academy, medical teams rushed to meet them. Professors counted heads, checked records, that everyone who had reached the beacon was accounted for. 31 survivors out of 43 students. It was the highest survival rate for a Class X exam in the Academy's history. Professor reviewed the footage from the survival monitors. He watched modify his breathing filter with alien plants. He watched the small human lead a group through impossible terrain. He watched him face down the matriarch with nothing but courage and a desperate plan. "The humans," the professor muttered to himself. "We've been underestimating the humans this whole time." The next morning walked into class and sat in his usual seat. Back row, near the window, same as always. But the seat next to him wasn't empty anymore. Sat there, her large eyes bright with new understanding. Took the seat behind them, his healing arms still in splints but his four-armed posture somehow proud. Even the mighty chose a seat nearby instead of his usual position at the front. When the professor asked if anyone wanted to share insights from the exam, every head in the room turned toward. He looked up from his data pad, surprised by the attention. For 2 years, nobody had looked at him. Now everyone was waiting for him to speak. "Just standard survival stuff," he said, slightly embarrassed. "Nothing special." Laughed out loud. The other students joined her, human and alien alike, because they understood now. What was standard for a human was extraordinary for everyone else. After class walked through the academy halls. Students from other years pointed at him, whispered to each other. He heard fragments of conversation. The human who faced the matriarch. Earth is a, can you believe it? I think this is normal. He kept walking. He didn't need fame, didn't want attention. He was the same person he had always been. Quiet, calm, unremarkable in every visible way. But the galaxy was finally starting to understand what unremarkable meant for a species forged on a world that never stopped trying to kill them. That night stood at his window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them was Earth, his home, his. He smiled. The galaxy had always wondered why humans smiled so often, even in hardship. Now they were starting to understand. For a species born on a world of ice ages and super volcanoes, of predators and plagues, of earthquakes and storms, every peaceful moment was already a victory. Every ordinary day was a gift. And the quiet one in class had simply done what humans had always done. He had survived.